Hello there and welcome back to the studio today. I hope you had a wonderful day yesterday. So today what we're going to do is we're going to create another pet portrait, and what we have here is just an 11 by 14 inch cotton canvas that has been pre-toned with burnt umber oil paint several weeks prior to today's episode. And on the palette here we have titanium white, flake white, burnt umber, alizarin crimson permanent, cadmium red, cadmium orange, cadmium yellow deep, cadmium yellow medium, cadmium green, sap green, ultramarine blue, ivory black, and neo magilp medium. And if you would like to know and or purchase the same type of materials that I'm using, I now have affiliated Amazon links in the description box down below. So not only can you read through the materials that I'm using, but you're also able to purchase some of them through the affiliated Amazon link. All you got to do is click on the link. It'll redirect you to the Amazon page where they are selling the same item that I'm using. If you do decide to purchase one of the items, Amazon will pay me a small amount. So thank you so much in advance for that. So we're going to use just burnt umber and a little bit of odorless mineral spirits just to thin out the paint a little bit, and this is going to be our drawing color. And here we have an image of our model Noah, and this image was sent to me through my Facebook account. So thank you so much, Joy Lamberti, for sending this picture to me. And the photo reference will remain on the top left corner of the screen over there, so you can refer to it as the painting develops. So I'm going to use just burnt umber diluted with the mineral spirits to get the composition all blocked in here. So what I'm thinking of is cropping Noah's nose. I think what I want to do, put the nose right here and just a simple mark there. And where I think the ear may or may not fit, somewhere back here. I'm feeling really laid back today, so I'm going to take my time with the umber sketch. Now, since I am using just burnt umber diluted with the odorless mineral spirits, I don't really have an eraser brush set up. But I'm fairly confident that I don't think I'll need to erase too much. I'm going to show you how I block in the basic shapes without too many mistakes. And if I make a mistake, it's okay. I'll show you how I can correct. So this will be the general shape for where the tongue is going to go down. The nose and the snout is going to go somewhere over here. And then we're going to throw in the backside of the eye right here. And already we're starting to get a glimpse of where we're heading with this painting. So I'm just taking my time, okay? It's the back side of the ear. No need to rush here. So let's see the corner of the snout. And I'm really looking at the outside contour, this whole contour now, following down towards here. That actually goes inwards a little bit more, goes out. Here we have the bottom of the tongue, the back side of the mouth. We're going to relate this negative shape here to the ear. So right over there. Simple and easy. This is probably the most laid back that I've been with a umber sketch. I'm usually moving really quickly. But today, I'm just chilling. Now we have the eye, an indication for where the eye may or may not fit. As long as we have a simple shape down, we will be able to relate the subsequent shapes and then make the drawing more and more precise. Now, I don't want to get a perfectly finished outline, though I am, pacing myself a little bit with this linear construction just to show you in a more step-by-step fashion of how to create a realistic painting, realistic pet portrait. Now we're going to go all the way down towards here, and I really do enjoy the painting even at this stage. I enjoy all of it, really. So I may or may not put the collar. I kind of don't think that I will. Let's see, so there's a little bit of photographic distortion, which I'm going to edit. So the photograph is taken overhead. So that means that if it was a smartphone or some kind of digital camera, or even a DSLR camera, it would add a little bit of distortion, and we will be able to work through the distortion. So let me show you what I mean. So the photo reference makes the dog's head much larger in comparison to the torso, and that is because in perspective, it is correct that things that are closer to you will look bigger, but the photograph has exaggerated how much larger the the dog's head is relative to his body. So torso goes all the way down there, and the legs in the photograph would probably go here, okay? Would probably go here, but instead I'm going to move that down. I'm going to project it downwards so the dog, or Noah's arm, will rest here, and that's truer to life. So it's more like we're actually observing our model in real life as opposed to using the photo reference. The photo reference, remember, it's always there as a guide. It's always there to document the moment. But we as trained artists can, take the information, pick and choose what we want to put in, and create paintings. Okay, so I think that's a pretty good block in. I have the composition that I want. I want to crop his hip a little bit further that way, so I am giving him a little more of a lean, a little bit more of a tilt, so more of a gesture here. I don't really want to put in too many details in here. I'm going to go so far as to say that I'm not even going to block in too much light and shadow. Since this picture was taken in daylight, I think right here, let's go ahead and let me at least show you where the shadows will be. One shadow will be here, another shadow will be here, because the sunlight is predominantly coming from this direction. Though I think there are multiple light sources, I think the main light is coming towards here. So over here there will be a little bit more of a darker gradation of tone than over here. And over here, even all the planes that are going to be here are going to be receiving even darker gradations of tone. Now, since this is an Alla Prima portrait, I'm going to talk about the steps that I'm going to be taking for this painting. So the first stage was the composition, okay, the overall basic design. We have now established that composition, and we have the block-in. We have our model's head proportion relative to his torso, all nice and easily mapped out. So now the next thing to do is we're going to jump into the large planes. So we're going to jump into large planes of color, and then after that the smaller planes, and then after that we'll be done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to a different brush actually. I'm going to want a little bit of a larger brush. Let's say, I don't know, this one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to blur my eyes, okay? I'm going to just blur my eyes and try to see exactly what value gradations that I want. And I think what I want is a brown, like a kind of dark to warm brown, and then some of the pinks for the tongue, and then maybe a little bit of the darker brown, cooler kind of shape. Now this is why it helps to have a larger palette. I actually did order another palette that I'm very impatiently waiting for, and I can't wait to show you the palette I'm going to get. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to use lumpy anymore. It's just, if you've met me before, I really enjoy palettes, wooden palettes. I think that they are an art form unto themselves. So in any case, let's go ahead and mix up the darker browns that I was talking about, okay? And now we're going to move up. Let's use a little bit of the cadmium orange, a little bit of alizarin, crimson permanent. And now, before getting into the flake white, I usually, let's get you closer. I usually go right to the flake white at this stage, but I'm going to use the cadmium yellow deep instead, and now the cadmium yellow medium. See how I'm using a lot of paint, but it does have a little bit of the Neo McGillip, so it's not as as thick of paint mixture. Now we're getting into the flake white. A little more of the yellows in here, a little more flake white. And I like to use flake white because it allows you to use more of it without raising the value too much, as you're seeing right there. Now look what's going to happen once I put in this much, okay? This much of the titanium white. A whole new value. A whole new value. I'm kind of singing as I'm mixing the paint here. I don't know. I'm just feeling really relaxed today. Are you? Let me know how you're feeling today. Okay. So now that we have this lighter value, I think I just want it to be a little more yellow. So that's going to be one of the color value webs that I'm going to be taking from. Now let's mix up the next one. The next one is going to be for the tongue. So we're going to use the ivory black, ultramarine blue, a little more Neo Magilt medium, just to get the paint to flow a little bit more. A little more. Let's see. Ultramarine blue, titanium white, and I'm going to put a much lighter region here, though we don't need it for the dark accents for the dark areas of the fur, but we will want a kind of lavenderish color, lavender bright color for the teeth. So right here I'm already looking for the teeth, the value for the teeth, so a little bit brighter. There we go. And in that one, I really did use a lot more of the titanium white. And now the next one is going to be kind of a pinkish value web. I did forget one more value web that I want to mix up, and I'll show you it after this one. So the alizarin permanent, and now the flake white, titanium white. Now we have the lighter planes. Well, the colors that we'll use for the lighter plane, not the planes themselves. I did forget one more. Let's see. I don't really have another brush. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean off this brush. And we're going to use just the odorless mineral spirits to clean off the brush. Now it's not going to be completely cleaned off, but it will be mostly clean. I'm just dabbing it onto the paper towel. I wish I could be like Bob Ross and then smack the brush onto the corner, but the palette, the paint would get everywhere. You kind of don't want to do that if you're in a small studio, if you know what I mean. Alright, that's pretty clean, I think. Well, should move that brush. Alright, that's clean enough. And now with this newly cleaned off brush, what I want is to get a background color. Rather than putting it all the way down here, I'm just going to put it over here in the corner. I'm using the Neo Magilt first. So I want the background to be kind of like a gray, like you saw in the photo reference. But I think maybe a little touch more blue, I don't know. Or maybe we'll just mix up the same exact color. And I actually want a little more of a greenish tint to it too. Why not? So we're going to use the cadmium green. A little more of the... See, on the palette here, I'm already going to be kind of concerned with the values. I don't want this value to be anywhere near this value, then the background just won't show, or the foreground won't show as much. So I'm actually going to raise that value quite a bit, as it is in the photo reference, and I think that's actually pretty good already for our background color. And I think what I'll do first actually is just cover the background. Alright, now that we have the background all covered, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start to subdivide these planes. Now, we don't have any planes yet, but we're going to start to now put in our first little indications of some plane changes. So we'll start off right over here with the darkest value. Okay, so starting off with the darkest value, we're actually going to move all the way down here because Noah does have some patterning. So we really do want to look at the patternings as well. Patterning in terms of a simple basic breakdown of shapes. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to a different brush here, and this is actually the same brush I used to mix up the pinks, but I'm actually using the color value web, of those darker brown mixtures. So we want to very quickly now start to look at large planes, and then we're going to subdivide these planes into smaller and smaller planes. Now obviously that's a little bit too pink, so I'm going to go back in some more kind of brownish color. There we go. I'm going to start to put in some more planes there. And now we're going to use that darker kind of grayish color. right all into there. And now there's going to be a little bit of a darker shape for where his eye will eventually fit. A little dark shape there. And a dark shape here. And then we'll add in all the specifics within these shapes later on. See if we can just use this brush here. Start to add more specificity. A bit of a darker pattern there. So it looks like there's kind of like a V type patterning, so I'm going to map that out right there. And when you're working in Alla Prima that is wet on wet, you want your initial layer to have less medium. So I really don't have as much medium right now, though I am anticipating once I get into the smaller shapes, I will use more and more of a thinner application of paint. So with Alla Prima, you really want to work thin paint over top of thicker paint. Now I'm going to switch brushes actually, get a little bit of a lighter shape right there. And I'm going to use the tone of the canvas to my advantage. You know, in some areas like that, I'll let the mixture be much more transparent, and right here, you can just kind of blend these shapes in together to get a softer edge. And so now directly underneath, there's going to be a little bit of a kind of darker brownish tone, a little more neo medium. There we go. And when you pre-tone your canvases with the oil paint, the paint or the application is a little more grippy, so the canvas can actually grip onto the paint a little more easily. And now, of course, I'm going to have to block in a darker shape for the ear, so I'm going to use just the darker region of the palette. We're going to block in this dark shape rather quickly. And we're also going to let this shape go down to here a little more. All right, now we're going to raise the value a little bit. Now switching brushes, I want that darker shape. So I'm going to use the darker region of the brownish colors that we had. Now that's really dark. So that's definitely going to be the darkest that I'm going to go. I might want to put a note here for where that dark value is going to go. And now you're really starting to see that these planes are going to read pretty well at a distance. All right, now I'm going to add a little more of a lighter tone here, a little bit of a lighter brown. Switching brushes here, we're going to put in a little bit of a lighter, warmer brown. Lighter and warmer brown. We're going to have a cooler brown, so I'm using the cooler flesh tone. Oh, what's going on with me? I'm using the cooler color value web. That's what I meant to say. And here we're going to have that V shape that I was talking about. A little V shape for Noah's head. Now we're going to go up to a lighter tone. Right over here. Now that's a little too pink, but while we have the pink, let's start to block in the tongue. So a little bit of a darker plane here. Super simple. Darker plane here and cooler. Now we're going to have a lighter plane here and warmer. And then while we have that, we can now start to look at the subsequent planes surrounding this one. So a little bit darker over here. See how I'm kind of utilizing the tone of the canvas to help me out a little bit with this block in of larger planes. All right, so we got a little bit of a darker area there. Same brush, just going to the cooler region of the color value web. Now hopefully you can really see how fast I'm able to move because of the color value webs that I mixed up. You know, it does take some time, as you saw, to mix up those color value webs. But once you've got them, I mean, it's really just a matter of now picking and choosing what values you want to put in and not really spending too much time mixing. So now a little bit of a darker plane there. Let's make it a little bit lighter and warmer. All right. So a little bit lighter and warmer there. I think that's a little too dark, so that value should probably go somewhere about here. So I'm going to put that value over there. A little bit lighter here. Actually going to have to switch brushes for that. So let's see. Let's use the kind of the pinkish one that we had. There we go. And of course there's a lighter, more gray kind of color over here. I really like these colors. I mean, the the nuance to each one of these subtle shapes. Again, that's why I like to do animal, wildlife portraits, pet portraits, whether they be dogs, cats, or birds, or lizards. It's because of the nuance to the shapes. A little bit more of a darker tone here. Probably should be a little bluer. There we go. And I think that we should put that darker accent for the nostril rather quickly. So there's one here, and then over here. And then we'll put more of a specific shape for that later. That dark goes all the way down here. Alrighty then. Sound like Ace Ventura. Alright, so now we're gonna look for these planes here that I was talking about before. A little bit darker down there. And a lighter plane here. Or just picking and choosing shapes. And these are still, like I said, the large planes. We will, subdivide these planes into much more specific ones later. But right now we're just taking our sweet time with these planes. For a while I was really concerned with the pet portraits in particular, with making the videos too long. But now, we're just taking my time. I hope you enjoy this too. I really do enjoy this. And I want you to have the same experience. Alright, a little bit of a lighter plane there. Alright, so now we have these lighter planes all mapped out. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to subdivide the shapes further down here. It's going to be a little bit darker. Darker plane over here. And with the same brush, I'm going to be putting in darker and lighter shapes pretty simply there. Pretty soon I'm going to take out a different brush for these lighter values that we have to put in, but let's just stick with these for now. It's going to get darker as we move further away from the main light source. Don't want to cover this too much. That was a mistake covering that, but I think it'll be okay. A little bit lighter and more orangey down here, and then darker over here as we start to turn away from the light. And I think I should put a little more of the background color over here. There we go. And all into here. Now I want the background color to just kind of fit right on easily. So this is kind of warm, but I don't want it to be as warm as this. So with the same brush, I'm just going to add something darker and more brown from the brown color value web. There we go. The shape goes down to here. This is a really relaxing day. I feel like this has been a very relaxing week, even though I've had a lot going on, such as the Patreon. So if you would like to, support this channel even more and participate in watching things such as me painting live, so live streams, and of course, talking to me directly through a live chat using the Discord app, you can now support me and have more resources from me through Patreon. A little bit of a lighter plane here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a lighter shape for the fur. Alright, so I'm going to switch brushes very quickly here. If I even have another brush. Yeah, I really need to get some more brushes. I'm going to use the background color, but with more titanium white and Neo McGilt medium. So this is all about sharing. One thing that really troubles me, I don't know if this troubles you, is when there's ambient noise around the studio. So somebody must have just entered the place where I record, so I can hear them walking around, which annoys me so much. But, it's not always sunshine and daisies, right? Though you probably can't hear it because my microphone is clipped onto my vest. But anyway, I have a feeling today is going to be a longer episode. So let's just keep on blocking in these shapes. A little bit of a cooler color, as this little area here is actually in shadow. Want that to be a little bit cooler. Bit of a lighter plane. So that's the question of the day. Do you get as easily distracted as I do? Especially when painting. I get so distracted. Unless it's like someone filming me or something. Like, such an odd thing, isn't it? Like, if someone's actually actively participating in the filming, I don't get as distracted. I don't know. I'm just going off on a tangent here. I am missing a little bit of a darker bluish tone here, which will help to differentiate, the leg from this leg. There we go. Very simple there. A little more alizarin permanent. Alright, so I think that's pretty good for the large shapes. Now we're going to start to get into the smaller shapes. So first thing I'm going to do is block in, this dark shape for the tongue. We'll get some shapes in for the teeth, and then I'll get you into a close-up shot. So there we have the tongue. A bit more of a pinker dark area here. The gums. Single brush stroke for that. Now I'm going to get a smaller brush, add a little bit of the medium, and kind of using the background color, to be honest. So let's go ahead and start to put in the teeth. Actually, hold on. I'm going to put in a little more of a darker shape over there. It's very, very lightly. Now let's start to put these shapes in. Alright, I'm going to get you in a close-up now. Alrighty then. You are now in a close-up shot, so with a much thinner application of paint. Alright, so I'm using a lot more of the Neo McGilt medium. So we got one tooth, another tooth here. Now we're going to put a larger tooth over here. Who knew I would be painting, the planes on teeth today? I didn't know. But I really do enjoy this stuff. I live for this stuff. A bit of a lighter shape over there. A bit cooler and bluer as it turns away from us. And now I'm going to clean off the brush, add a little bit of a darker mixture. Right over here. Following all around here. A little bit of a darker shape. Right there. And over here, as the tongue starts to overlap, creating an accent right there. And of course, we can't forget this little partition on the tongue. And now what we're going to do is we're going to put in some more specificity for the eyes. So just ivory black, Neo Magilt medium, alizarin crimson, a little more ivory black. So now the paint is much thinner. And again, just using the Neo Magilt medium. Now I want to relate this eye here to this one. So we have a little more distance here than I initially had. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this further that way. See how malleable oil paint is? Very forgiving. Alright, so now that we push that shape back, this eye is going to go over here. Got a little bit of the eye over there. A little darker over here. There we go. Of course, there are going to be many more little dark shapes over here. So now I'm actually going to get into, well, we've already gotten into these smaller planes. So now this will lead on to the tedious stuff. We will take a long time, or at least I will take a long time in each individual spot, picking and choosing which areas to render more. A bit darker there. I have a little more of a dark shape here than I had before, but I think I'll get to that afterwards. Let's put in the eye first. A little bit more light here for the iris. And of course there's going to be some highlights. A little lighter there. See how just very little goes a long way. I'll put in the dark for the pupil. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to add more attention and subdivide these shapes into smaller shapes. Now after spending quite a long time on these smaller shapes, what I'm going to do is start to apply just little indications here and there of the whiskers and the fur. Well, I guess at this point it's just little teeny tiny shapes for the fur. Now, I'm at a dilemma. I want to apply the brushstrokes in this direction, but if I do, it'll create a little bit of glare, so I'll tell you what, this is what I'm going to do. Apply the little tiniest indications of the whiskers and the fur. a little more mineral spirits to have an even more thin application of paint. I just let some of these whiskers kind of go all around and into here. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. Knowing that it's glaring a little bit, I'm going to use my fan brush. And yes, I know I need to get a better fan brush. This one's pretty dead, but it should work just fine. And by messed up, I mean there's like dry paint on the fan brush. But actually, I've got an idea. I can actually use that to my advantage. So kind of like scrape. Oh, it's working. Interesting. So I just learned something. With the dry, now revived fan brush, I'm now putting in little indications of fur, and it's actually working quite nicely, actually. Just came up with that on the spot. So we have revived this fan brush, and we have now turned it into the fur brush. So what it's doing is it's actually creating the little indications of the teeny tiny hairs, little bits of fur. And not everywhere, but just in areas of focus. So now with just a little bit of mineral spirits and a tiny bit of burnt umber, I'm just going to add his signature onto this painting. And I think that's going to be about it for today's episode. I really hope that it helps you out. I wish you the best in all of your artwork. As always, remember, in a world that can be so negative, be the spark that ignites positivity amongst all of us. If you would like to support this channel even more, I now have a Patreon page. The links will be in the description box down below, where I will offer you more and more exciting stuff. So thank you so much for watching and supporting, and I'll see you tomorrow. And it's time for our new patron shout out. So let's all give a very big thank you to Cheryl Ball, Stephanie S., and Victor Sina. Thank you so much. It really means the world to me that you are helping support this YouTube channel. You're helping to support us in a very big way. Thank you so much again. I truly do wish you the best in all of your artwork, and I'll see you tomorrow.